Senator Manchin was just talking about not wanting to talk about campaign 2024, but we're going to do that. It is up and running because frontrunner former President Trump was in the Washington area yesterday speaking at a conservative political gathering where he had some pretty tough talk about what would happen if he is not reelected. Our Robert Costa spoke exclusively with former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan about why he is not jumping in.
You think by sitting out, the field maybe it's a little tighter?
I hope so.
It's a little harder for Trump to get that nomination.
I sure hope so.
Bob's here. We're going to be talking with him next, and you'll hear more from that interview with Governor Hogan. So far, there are only 3 major Republican candidates in the 2024 campaign, but more than a dozen are still undecided. Our Robert Costa spoke to former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan on Friday. And Bob, he told you he's not running. Did he explain why?
He did. The former Maryland governor said he felt conflicted as he made this decision. Let's hear what he had to say.
I was struggling because my heart was telling me to run. My head was telling me no, that this does not make sense for a whole host of reasons. And my gut was flipping back and forth. So it really came down to if I wasn't 100% convinced that I shouldn't do it.
You were torn.
I was torn.
Toughest decision of your political career?
Absolutely toughest decision I ever made.
Politically, by staying out of the race, it's a smaller field, maybe tougher for Trump to get the nomination.
I didn't want to have a pile up of a bunch of people fighting. Right now you have Trump and DeSantis at the top of the field, you're soaking up all the oxygen, getting all the attention, and then a whole lot of the rest of us in single digits. And the more of them you have, the less chance you have for somebody rising up.
So, Bob, he doesn't see a path for himself. He worries about too many challengers carving a path, essentially, for the former president. What else did he have to say about the campaign?
Margaret, as you know, there is this lingering divide between traditional conservative Republicans and the Trump wing of the Republican Party. The former governor said as he looked at the race, he saw a narrow path for Republicans like himself as they look to 2024. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
Well, there's no question it's challenging. There's a big fight for I would say the heart and soul of the Republican Party that I've been talking about for years. It's still going on. We're making progress, though. I mean, it went from about 90% of the Republican primary base was behind Trump to about 60% after January 6th to it's down to about 30% now. There's about 2/3 of the people in the Republican Party, while they might have supported Trump and Trump's policies, they really are ready to consider moving in a different direction.
He's still leading the polls.
He's leading in the polls, and there's no question he's a formidable challenge. But I think, a year is an eternity in politics, and the first primaries are about a year away. So I think what it looks like today, it could be completely different than what it looks like a year from now.
You are a 2-term governor, just left office. You've long been connected to the legacy of Ronald Reagan, conservative movement politics. Is your decision to not run in 2024 in any way an acknowledgement that that party, that version of the Republican Party, is fading or even gone?
I don't feel that way at all. I think we certainly went off in the wrong direction, and we're not back on track. It's going to take a while. We're not there yet. I would say the party of Reagan is not dead, and neither is the party of Trump.
How serious is this moment for your party in terms of beating former President Trump? If he wins the White House again, what would that mean for American democracy?
Well, I'm hopeful that it's not going to happen.
But what does it mean if it does?
Then I think we're going to have to do some soul searching. We're going to be digging out for a long time. But look, we've lost 7 out of the last 8 popular votes in the presidential race, and we've had 3 horrible election cycles where we should have had a huge pickup in the last election. We didn't. We lost before that, the Senate, the House, and the White House. We've got to start getting back to a party that people will vote for, or we don't get to govern.
When you look at your effort to try to get the Republican Party to come back to its conservative roots, you're facing a lot of obstacles. There's a big battle over what the truth is. And the recent Dominion lawsuit against the Fox News, the Fox Corporation, is one example of how there's a real battle over whether election fraud happened or not. All these false claims of fraud are out there right now in the political discussion, especially on the right. What's your response to the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News, and what does it reveal about the Republican Party and perhaps Fox News?
Well, I don't know all the details of the Dominion lawsuit, but I'm certainly following the controversy. And it doesn't come as a surprise because for years we've had people who, I would hear from elected officials and leaders of the party and people in Congress or fellow governors or people in conservative media that would say privately something. I was always telling the truth, and I was, sometimes criticized for it, but I always stood up and said exactly what I thought. People would say to me, "Oh, I agree with what you're saying, but I can't say it," or they would, they would know the truth, but say something different just to win votes. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think we've got to get back to truth-telling, and we've got to stop the conspiracy theories. It's why we lost all the elections in this last race. I mean, the people that were spouting election lies and that were saying that nothing happened on January 6th or that the pandemic was fake, the virus didn't happen, they all lost. And the people who actually won were the common sense conservative Republicans like me, who were actually able to win swing votes and that were talking about issues like the economy, like crime and education. They were focused on things people cared about. We can't keep looking backward, and we can't keep, denying facts.
Is Governor DeSantis somebody you could see yourself supporting as the non-Trump candidate in your party?
Well, look, the people of Florida just overwhelmingly elected Ron DeSantis. I've said earlier that I think governors are a good training ground to become president. We have a lot of great governors to consider. Maybe Ron DeSantis and I have different styles, but certainly he's got every right to get out there and make the case.
Where do you stand on Governor DeSantis' efforts to counter Disney and its self-governing zone in Florida?
The controversy to me, it was about telling a business that if you don't agree with me, I'm going to put you out of business or take it over. And I'm a traditional kind of small government conservative Republican who doesn't believe in heavy-handed, local governments telling businesses what to do. So we come at it from a different perspective. It's not about the issues themselves that they were fighting over, but how it's being handled, I would disagree with.
He's talking about his battles with what he calls woke culture. What does the DeSantis approach tell you about his politics?
Well, I think he's going right after the Trump base, and he wants to be, I think, the younger, version of Donald Trump. And, he's trying to fire up the base, which is okay, and it may be a good strategy to win a primary. But my point was you have to actually focus on winning swing voters as well, or we'll have Joe Biden as president, and that's not what we need.
How rough could it get, DeSantis versus Trump?
Could get rough, Time will tell. It's going to be very interesting. Joe Biden is not the guy who should be the next president, and I think most people would agree. But you can't beat somebody with nobody. We have to come up with the best candidate.
You've been friendly with former Vice President Mike Pence. Someone you could support?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Mike Pence, and I thought he certainly, is the kind of guy. He's full of integrity and experience.
And if another potential contender is listening to you today, what do you hope they hear from this decision, from your move?
I love competition, and I hate coronations. My advice would be don't run just because you want to get your name known, or you want to be on TV, or you want to write a book, or get a TV deal, or because you want to be a cabinet secretary. You should only run if you believe that you're capable and qualified and that you have a real chance to be not only the nominee, but the next president.